Happy New Year to my subscribers and non-subscribers. It's your girl Barbie J here with the recap and review of Tyler Perry's Netflix drama series Beauty in Black, Season 1, Episode 3, The Aftermath, and Episode 4, A Family Affair. So I'm going to read the synopsis for these episodes, but it seems that I found two variations of these synopsises, so I'm going to read both of them. Episode 3, The Aftermath, reads, Norman is demanding answers from Dr. Joseph about Ina's condition. Roy and Charles come up with a plan. Kimmy's choices lead to dangerous consequences. And tension builds between the Bellarys as a furious Norman hunts for answers about the hit and run. And then episode 4, A Family Affair, reads, Olivia urges Norman to stay away from Charles and Roy. Kimmy finds familiarity while looking at the Bellary family photos. Olivia plays hardball to protect her sons. Angel comes to Kimmy with a daring proposal. And as the lawsuit escalates, Mallory contemplates her options. So before we get started with my recap and review, if you're new here or if you're returning here and have not subscribed to this channel as of yet, please do not forget to subscribe. Then hit the notification bell and it'll let you know every time I upload any new content to this channel. Then I ask that you smash the like button, write a comment, and share, because sharing is caring. Now we have Kimmy talking to Horace, and he tells her that she's different because she has care in her heart. And he shares with her that he and his brother run Beauty in Black, and he asks her if she uses the products and then tells her to stop using it because the relaxer is causing cancer and killing women. He also tells her that he has prostate cancer and then says, I guess what goes around comes around. And he told him that his family doesn't know. So he thanks Kimmy for her help and tells her to take the money in his pocket. But all she really wants him to do is check on Rain and get back to her with what he found out. He tells her to write down Rain's name and he will check on her tomorrow. Then he tells her that he wants to see Angel again, even though he's an effing thief. He wants her to get his watch back because it had sentimental value. Then he tells her she could take the truck to drive home and that she can bring it back when she brings back his watch. Now we're over at the hospital where Norman Bellary goes into his wife's room and starts freaking out and yelling at the doctor, asking what happened to her and to get the chief of staff now because my family, what he said, donated this wing and to this hospital and you got to save her. And he's just losing it on the doctor. Next, we see Kimmy. She shows up to Angel's apartment to get the watch back. He feels he earned it until Kimmy lets him know about the pics that she saw in his house and that Horace is Jules' boss and that if she doesn't bring the watch back, they are effed. And so Angel's girl doesn't want to give it back until Kimmy tells her these Iggers will kill her. So she gives Kimmy the watch and then she leaves. So now Jules shows up to the hospital to see Norman and asks if his wife Enid has spoken, and he says no. Then he tells Jules that he wants to know who did this, and Jules said, you will. And then Norman also told Jules that his wife likes to run in the park and on that private road. So Jules calls Roy to give him an update, but he doesn't answer, but Mallory does, and he gives her the info about Enid, and she doesn't care one bit. She tells him to take care of it and stop wasting her time talking about that old ass biatch because she got to get her makeup done. And I was like, damn, she cold, ain't she? Then she asked Jules who her husband was with last night, and he said, I don't know what you talking about, and he hangs up. Now we see Body and Dagger showing up at Kimmy's hotel room, and they beat her up to teach her a lesson and make sure she doesn't talk or go back to the hospital to check on Rain, which I feel is so messed up. So now we have Olivia at the church telling Norman that the sanctuary is closed. Then he tells her about Enid and asks, did one of her boys hit her? Because they are the only family that uses that private road. He tells her that if my brother is covering this up, his brother is Horace, he will destroy this family, and he left. So Olivia calls her ex-husband Horace, but the butler James won't allow her to speak with him. So she goes to see her son Charles and catches him having sex with a man. She slaps him on the back of his head and tells the other guy to leave. She's disgusted by the way her son is living with drugs all around. Then she asks him about the private road and goes into his garage to check out all of his vehicles. They are all clean. Then she tells him to get dressed because they have a board meeting in an hour. He tells he doesn't care about what goes on in that company. And she says, how you think you're affording this house that we bought? Now get your behind dressed and get to the office. Next, we see Kimmy going to the hospital because her side is hurting from that beatdown she just got. So they have her waiting for a while. So she takes this time to go visit Rain, and the nurses are laughing at her. And Kimmy was about to get a doctor when Rain asked her not to leave, to stay there with her. Then after a while, Rain tells Kimmy to go to work because Jules was probably going to be mad at her. Then Kimmy tells her about Jules, Roy, and Horace and says she's scared. So as she leaves the hospital, Jules rolls up and threatens her. He tells her, you just don't learn. And she tells him, I was in pain from them beating me up. And he says, I'll show you some pain. So he tells her to get out of his car and stand in front of an ambulance that was right there. And he backs up and drives toward her. But the daggone safety feature on the vehicle wouldn't allow him to hit her. It stopped him. And he's like, damn, I can't even hurt you. So he told her if she comes to that hospital again, he's going to put her in the morgue. So now we see Norman driving down the private road and he see one of Ina's sneakers. So now he knows for sure that someone in the family hit her. Roy goes to see Jules and tells him that Kimmy set him up and he wants to see Kimmy tonight because he wants to make her suffer. And Jules is like, fine. So now we see this interesting scene with the family in the boardroom, and Charles is on his cell phone texting dirty messages to a man. His father, Horace, takes the phone from him and reads out the messages out loud and then blames Olivia for their son being gay. Mallory asks for them all to focus on this lawsuit, and the attorney tells them that 43 more people have been added to the class action lawsuit. He doesn't think they should settle, and insurance covers up to $100 million. However, the plaintiffs are asking for $1.5 billion, which he states will bankrupt their company. So we have Horace asking, how did this ish happen? How did it happen? And at that moment, Norman comes into the boardroom and they're like, oh, look who finally showed up. And he has his wife's sneaker in his hand and he asks, which one of you MFers ran over my wife? Which one of you did it? And they're all looking at him and nobody's saying anything. And then Horace goes, do not come into my office in the middle of a meeting and cause no scene. And Olivia and Mallory try to calm Norman down. He tells Mallory to shut the F up because she married into this ish. And Norman and Horace are ready to come to blows. And Olivia tells Roy to get his punk ass up to do something. And she said, you're an effing disgrace. And Norman said, you could say that again. You and this effing fruitcake. And Charles stands up and his mother said, just sit your ass back down. So a family argument breaks out between Norman, Horace, Charles, and Olivia, who is constantly protecting her sons. And Horace says that's why he, talking about Charles, is the way that he is. You do nothing but protect these boys. And Charles said, how am I, father? And he said, you're a loser. I said, oh, snap. He called his son a loser. Letting men ride your back or something like that, he said. And the attorney is just looking back and forth at everybody. I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on here in the family feud? So Norman said, you did it? And Charles said, I wish I had done it so that it would make you miserable. And he leaves out. And Norman said, neither of you is worth ish. And then Horace asked, Norman, where's your kids? And Norman said, that's low. So I don't know what happened. Did Norman's kids die? Did something happen to them? I'm curious to find out. I hope they tell us later on. So before Norman left, he said that if his wife dies, he will burn Beauty and Black down to the ground. And Horace said, you probably will. And then he left. And then Roy left. And then Varney, the attorney, asked, should I continue? And Olivia and Mallory gathered up their stuff and they walked out, leaving the attorney sitting there. Olivia goes to Horace's office and reminds him that his brother is the devil, that he shouldn't make him angry, and he doesn't want to even listen to Olivia. But he knows that she's right, and so she leaves. We now see Norman in a parking garage letting Jules know that he found his wife's shoe on the private road, and he wants to know who did it. He asks Jules, are you with me or are you loyal to my brother? He says he's loyal to Charles, but we find out later him and Charles have been working together on something. So you would think that Jules is loyal to him, but Jules is lying. So Charles overhears a little bit of that as he's past Jules and Calvin, and he jokes about it as he heads towards his car. And Olivia runs over begging him not to antagonize his uncle because he's dangerous. And he's like, everybody in his family is dangerous. So she's telling him not to drive near Norman's house, and she wants him to stay at her house and for a few days until Norman cools off. And Charles thinks his mom is overreacting and gets into his car and leaves. And as we all seen from that boardroom and from here in the garage, she does baby them. These boys got to be at least 30 years old. Start treating them like little babies and treat them like adults. You know what I mean? But that's why they act the way they are. And they probably right about that. So now we see Mallory in her office talking to Varney, the attorney, asking him how bad is things. And he says, not good. And she asks what happens if folks file this lawsuit against Beauty and Black. And he said the company will have to file for bankruptcy. So he's ready to go home, and Mallory talks him into having one drink with her. Now we see Kimmy answering her phone, and it's her mama, of all people, the one who put her out at the age of 17 with $10 in her pocket. And she has the nerve to be asking Kimmy to send her and Frank, the boyfriend, some more money. I'm like, really? Is this woman losing it or what? Kimmy wanted to come home, but no, she can't because of Frank. Kimmy tells her mother she loves her, and her mother said, bye, and she hangs up. I'm like, wow, that's messed up. And I'm trying to understand why Kimmy even send her money in the first place, because she said send more money. You know, the mother feels she's making good money down there at the club. But I don't think I would want to send my mother anything after her put me out on the street, and look at how my life turned out because I got connected with the wrong type of person. So now Angel goes to see Kimmy with this idea to rob Horace because he's loaded, and that the watch he took from him is worth $1.2 million. Kimmy's like, what? And then Kimmy told him he was stupid and that they have seen way too much, therefore they ain't never getting out of this trap they're in as exotic dancers. So now we see Olivia at the hospital going to visit or check on Norman and Enid. During this moment, we learned that Norman and Olivia messed around before, and it broke Enid's heart. So she told him that she doesn't want him to hurt her sons, and he told her he's going to make them tell him what they did. And she said, can't we just compromise? And he laughs at her. And he said, in only one phone call, I can have them taken out. And she said, I know. Then she handed him a yellow envelope saying that she hates to do this, but she do know that he and Jules have been trafficking women and men since Jules was at the airport and when Norman was on the bench as a judge, and how he let them all go. And she said she could have those folks moved and turn state's evidence and have Norman and Jules locked up for life. She said she left all of this behind her for her mental health, but he's trying to turn her back into the biatch she used to be. He told her that's not going to stop him for going after someone who hurt someone that he loves. And then he asked her, why do you keep trying to protect those horrible MFers? And she said, because they are my horrible MFers. MFer? I was like, oh Lord, she must have been a piece of work, y'all, back in the day. So now we see Calvin, the driver, and Julia, Mallory's assistant. They're standing in the restaurant waiting for her. And he asks, did she give Roy head? And she tries to explain that his brother stopped it, so she didn't. And she said, they own us. You know that. What was I supposed to do? You know I only want you. And Calvin was like, get away from me. He told her to move away from him. Then we see Mallory asking Varney if he want to F her because he can. But Varney declines. So Mallory leaves out pissed and walks over to Julia and said, find a ride home. Calvin, take me home. So as Calvin is driving Mallory home, she tells him to pull over and to get into the back seat with her. She asks him if he thinks she's beautiful, and he's like, ma'am. Then she told him that she dresses Julia the way that she does so men won't look at her because she's beautiful, but they still do. She told him, you even look at her. And she asked him if he was effing her, and he said no real quick. I was like, wow, I thought he was. Anyway, she tells him that her husband really wants to. Now, although Mallory tells him he could get back in the front and drive her home, Calvin asks her why did he ask her to come back there, and he moves closer to her and says, you want me because your husband's not giving you what you need, and I want you right now. So basically, he's doing this because Julia almost gave Roy head. See how you petty some men could be, y'all, though? That's real petty. Because Julia didn't do it, but he did do it. So Julia's in a cab and sees their car pulled over to the side of the road. And there's no one in the driver's seat. And we see Calvin going downtown on Mallory in the back seat. So here's Horace. He's back at the strip club and he's asking for Kimmy, who's on stage and ain't making no money. And according to Buddy and Delinda, she owes 237,000 to Jules, and Rain owes over 400,000. And they are laughing, saying that they ain't never getting out of there because Jules just keep adding on all kinds of fees and stuff to keep them there. And so that's what, Angel and Kimmy was saying, is feeling trapped there. So Kimmy goes into the room and gives Horace the watch. And I was wondering where she had it hidden on her body, where she was holding it all that time. I'm like, what was it up her coochie? So now, for whatever reason, Kimmy has a big attitude with Horace and asks him if he's trying to run game on her. And he keeps asking, what's wrong? You seem different today. So they go back and forth until he says, I don't need this, Ish. I had a shitty day. And she said, then go. And when he opened the curtain to leave, he sees his son, Charles, there flirting with Angel. He tells Kimmy his son can't see him there and to stop him from talking to Angel. And so she does. And then Angel asks if Horace wants to see him tonight. And she says, I'm not setting you up so that you can rob Horace, because that would be both of our asses. So she tells Horace that Angel wants to see him tonight. And he asks why. And she said, for money. What you think? And he asks, does Angel that Charles is his son? And she says, no. It seems to me that Kimmy thinks Horace knows a lot more about her than he really does. I mean, am I wrong? Somebody put it down in the comment section, but that's what I'm getting from this whole thing. So Angel meets up with Horace that night at Kimmy's hotel room like before, and they tell Kimmy to take a ride for an hour, even though she didn't want to leave because she didn't trust Angel. So Angel asked to be paid $1,000 for the night, and Horace thought Kimmy told Angel about him. But Angel said he looked up that watch he stole and it was worth a lot of money, and that's why he knows that Horace can't afford the $1,000. So they discuss Angel taking his watch and how he could get him arrested and all that stuff. And he's letting Angel know that he's not afraid of him, so he shouldn't try to threaten him with letting others know what he's been doing. So Angel starts dancing for him and tells Horace he could touch him. And then the next thing you know, Horace coughs up some blood and it goes on Angel, who was butt naked at the time. But he assured Angel that it wasn't contagious because Angel was concerned. Now we see Julia outside in front of Mallory's house waiting for them to arrive. And Mallory snaps at her, of course, telling her to go upstairs to that garage apartment and get the F out of her face. And I was like, she's a nasty son of a something, the way she talks to people. I don't understand Mallory, but I hope during this series we see her get what's coming to her, because she really needs to be taken down a few notches. Anyhow, once Calvin gets up to his room, Julia asks to speak to him and finds out that he did something with Mallory. So Julia starts crying as she threatens to tell on him. And she said, do you know what he will do to you? And she's talking about Roy. And Calvin tells her to get out of his room, and she leaves with tears in her eyes, calling him a fool. And it ends with Kimmy back at the hospital, because y'all know she doesn't learn, and she's going to see Rain. And when she gets to her bed, it's empty, and she's standing there talking to herself saying, where is she? And the woman in the next bed said, she died. And Kimmy was just standing there stunned, not able to move. And I gotta admit, I was really sad. I thought she was going to get better, but I guess not. So y'all let me know what y'all thought about these 2 episodes down in the comment section, and I will see you all in the next video. Please do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. It's your girl Barbie J saying peace.